Welcome back to Your Tribe. In this episode, Your Tribe discusses the hats we wear regarding our responsibilities and relationships at home, at work, and the standards we impose on ourselves. If only decommitting were as easy as someone telling you to just stop it. But it's not, because most of what we have taken on has to get done somehow. Listen to Your Tribe discuss strategies for evaluating and delegating that to-do list.
But it's true, we do wear a lot of hats in our daily roles, and whether we're conscious of that or not. And I'm going to kind of call up, Brigitte, something we were talking about before we started the recording. One of them is also worry. We wear a worry hat, whereas a lot of people in our lives, and I hate to say it, but sometimes the male gender does not necessarily worry as much as we do. So I think that's another hat that we wear. But one of the themes I wanted to talk about is how do we do the adverse of the Nike ad campaign of the just do it? Like, how do we just stop it? How do we just, as Brigitte will eloquently maybe guide us along, is how do we decommit to something? So we find ourselves, worrying, overthinking, nurturing. I think of the electric ball at the Museum of Science in Boston, where it's this electric force where if you touch it, you get all these different electrical strobes that go everywhere. That's how our brains fire. So we're constantly thinking in a million different directions. So how do we just stop? How do we decommit? So Brigitte, maybe you can help us out a little bit on this whole decommitting from something.
Here's a magic wand. Now just stop it. If you guys have never watched, what is it, Bob Newhart, it's an old YouTube video where he plays a therapist, and his whole spiel is just stop it, right? Just stop it. Well, if it were that easy, right? So rather than looking at just stop it, as Amy already beautifully put it in place, it's how can we decommit from some of those hats? Like, I don't like this hat anymore. Do I really want to still wear it even though I don't like it? I'll give you an example. About a year ago, I kept becoming more and more resentful and frustrated with fixing family dinners. And, I pride myself, and it's truly a pride, I pride myself of fixing homemade family dinners every evening, brings the family together, brings us around the table to decompress, to discuss, to play cards, to laugh together, to cry together. And at one point I got to a certain point where I said, why am I still doing that? I don't want to cook. I don't want to think about all day after I've literally worked my what off. I don't want to think about going to the grocery store, shopping for everything, and then fixing a home cooked meal. I still want to have the family time around the table. And turns out around the same time that Christian, my husband, said, I love cooking. I was like, here, have it. You go do it. Here's the baton. Now go run with it. So I think it's sometimes, and I can only speak from my own experience, there must be some kind of pride. We birth the children, we help raise the children, we cook the meals, so to add to your list, Amy, what you said earlier, we plan things out, what goes on the grocery list? Although my husband cooks, what goes on the grocery list? I don't know, what do you want to cook, right? Why are you asking me? So we have all of those things that we put in place. My husband and I have agreed decades ago that I am the secretary of finance for our household as well. So I'm in charge for the budget and the taxes and everything that has to do with numbers and spreadsheets, because my husband's like, spreadsheets? Right? That's your thing. So Cindy can so relate to that. And I know that you're watching this and you're like, yep, I either love it or I hate it. There's no in between. There's no gray area, right? So I think the question here is to you guys and to the people that are watching, what do you want to decommit from? What are you so weary of? I don't want to do this anymore. And you're holding on for dear pride. Why? For what reason? For what purpose?
One of the things we just committed to in the house, actually my husband set it up, is cleaning. We brought in a housekeeper. So that's like, but it's a feeling of failure a little bit, and that's like, am I not good enough? Can I not keep my house clean? Am I, whatever it is? But I'm actually very grateful and thankful because it's like I work from home. I work really hard all day, every day. Brigida, to your point of going out and cooking family dinner, when I leave this office, I feel like I'm going to my second job, then my third job, taking care of the dog. And then you think about the house cleaning. So now I'm like, it's nice to just, there's going to be somebody coming in to help do that. It's not that I'm lazy or that I'm a failure or that I'm not capable. It's I'm consciously making the decision to say, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. And then at least my husband is an example too, because take the female piece of it out, he's a big believer in taking care of the yard, the grass, how it looks, how it's cut, all of that fancy stuff. And I think it was last year was the first year he made the decision to say, hey, I'm just going to have somebody come in and take care of it. And that was a big deal for him because it's something he enjoyed doing, but got to the point that didn't really have the time or didn't want to make the time. So I use those examples from our household for you all to think about, because there are these little things that we get so used to doing, the patterns of behavior, if you didn't watch our other episode, but these patterns of behavior where if you just stop, just stop, you might find space and time for something else that you enjoy.
I think it's even looking at focusing on what do you enjoy doing. So creating a list of things that you really enjoy doing that are kind of, I mean, in some ways, like I love doing my yard. I love in spring, like I cannot wait until it is time to plant new things. I love weeding. I love it all. The thing I do not like to do in the yard is blow the leaves when it comes to fall, because it's similar in my mind as cleaning the house. As soon as you blow the leaves, there's more leaves. As soon as I cleaned my house, since I'm in it all day long because I work from home as well, I'm immediately messing it up. So I cannot stand the grocery store. That to me is just a royal time suck. So I've delegated blowing the leaves in the fall. I use Instacart for the food. And my mom, a long time ago, because I am such an outdoor person, said, Kendall, like, you really need to think about, like, yeah, I understand how you're worried about saving and your budget and all these things, but just think about the joy that you have by not cleaning your house, because now you can be outside more. And so looking at it from the daily chores that we put on top of ourselves. I have friends who I say, what'd you do this weekend? They're like, oh, we just did chores. In my mind, I'm like, God, that sounds awful, the word chores. Or what are you doing now? Oh, running errands. And I always think about, like, where did the word errand come from? Like, who is Aaron too? So feel so bad for Aaron.
Love that.
Thinking about, like, what are the things that give you joy to do? What are the things that you can, it's okay for you to do, it may not inspire you, and the things that you just, like, takes away the fun out of life, how can you delegate it? There are so many. Brigida was talking about this during one of our last calls. Even when you look at work, like, what are the things that are busy work that you really don't need to be doing, that you can delegate to an assistant that could be in a completely different country, that could be in a completely different time zone than you. And so whenever you wake up, it's done. And I think at certain times, like, even whether you're new in your career or you're growing in it, if you're new in your career, there's certain things that I think you may not like doing, but they're so, if you think about what are the transferable skills I'm learning that will impact my future career. So one of my first jobs was, I was executive assistant to a CEO of a small, at the time, it's now massive email marketing firm. And I did all the travel for the company. I did his expenses. I did event planning. I did a whole bunch of stuff and I answered the phone. So what I learned was communication skills, how to handle people calling with questions, who may have been upset about something. How can I alleviate some of their pain and get them to where they needed to go? I learned a ton about Excel, which I am one of the people who love Excel, and which has allowed me, and I've used all those skills today, still 20 years later in my career, But if I didn't know them, then I don't, it has allowed me to do a lot of different things from a data management standpoint. I really don't love data, but at some point in your career, you may have to evaluate the data to make some good decisions. And so early in your career, you may be doing stuff you may not enjoy doing, but later in your career, wherever you're doing, how can you delegate those? How can you carve out what is the highest and best use of your time based upon what your end goal is and purpose? And then stop doing it. Thank you for spending a few minutes with Your Tribe. Your Tribe provides different perspectives from our unique view of the world as pioneers, trailblazers, go-getters, professionals, leaders, friends, and so much more. Our discussions span from leadership, business, relationships, and personal growth, and everything in between. Do you have a topic you want to discuss with Your Tribe? Submit a topic by emailing Kendall Rawls at kendall@rawlsgroup.com. We would love your feedback and contribution. Your Tribe is produced by the Rawls Group Business Succession Planners.